Hi, Trent Nielsen. I was on Naked and Afraid, went to Belize, and I am from Utah in the United States, and I wanted to go on Naked and Afraid because it sounded like a great challenge. You're stripped of everything. Your clothing, that's your number one shelter. And when they developed the show, they wanted it to be as raw as they could, and so they took your number one shelter away. And so they really wanted to make it a challenging show, and it really was a challenging show. So I wanted to challenge myself and do that. I've always been in the outdoors. I grew up in the outdoors, so I thought it'd be a great challenge for me. Some of my biggest challenges out there, number one was the bare feet. I have pretty tough feet. I've walked around without shoes. And that was the hardest because you're constantly having to look down instead of looking up, looking for birds, looking for different things to hunt. So how I overcame that is I made shoes. This is one of them that I brought home. Just little flip-flops. And this is with vine that I made out of tree bark. So those would fit on my feet. I went through about 10 pair of these before I made a different pair out of tree bark itself, and it could go over the terrain a little bit better. These ones, if you stepped on something hard, they would crack. So I'd go through these really quick, but this saved me out there. I was able to walk around, didn't have to always look at the ground, and I could look at what was going on around me. Also, another challenge was when my partner left and I was there all alone. Never been to the jungle before. I don't know the sounds, and I would, during the day you could hear the birds and all the things in the trees. Nighttime would come, those sounds would go away, and all the sounds on the ground. And so being out there alone in the dark, that was a huge challenge. To overcome that, I made a huge shelter, and I could walk around in it. I made a fireplace. That made me feel comfortable. And then I built my bed right in front of the fireplace and built a shelter over it. So I built a shelter inside of my shelter because I heard things walking around the camp, and I knew if it was coming in my shelter, I had 2 layers it had to go through to get me. So that helped me feel a lot more comfortable out there. As far as the nudity, it was really uncomfortable when they asked me to take my clothes off. I took all my clothes off. I'm standing there. I'm the only one naked. Everybody's looking at me. I felt really stupid, actually. And then my partner came over and she was naked, and I immediately felt better because I knew everybody was looking at her and not me now. So the nudity was really awkward at first, but when they said you're done, head for the hills, all of a sudden the nudity wasn't a deal anymore. It was about, we've got to make a camp, we've got to get a fire, we've got to secure ourselves, we're going to be all alone in the jungle tonight. And so nudity went from top priority down to bottom priority. We didn't even care anymore. It was just a nuisance. It wasn't even a big deal because we knew it was 3-4 hours before dark, and if we didn't have some things set up, we were in trouble. So all of our thoughts were on shelter, fire, securing ourselves, getting everything put together, getting to a point, finding a place to put up a shelter. That was all so much more important. So the nudity just kind of went away, and you didn't really think about it after that. As far as Annie, she did great. She was really tough for the 72 hours I had her. She helped build that shelter. She cut down trees. She hauled bamboo up the mountain. She was a great partner. I just really wish she would have lasted a little bit longer. We could have done some way cool things together. But we laughed, we played. They didn't show a lot of that on the show because they only have so much time to show different scenes. But we joked and we just had a blast together. So the 3 days that she was there, it was a blast. We had so much fun. We just laughed and joked the whole time and got a lot of things done too. As far as her leaving, yeah, I don't think she was prepared to go out there emotionally. It broke her down really quick, and I did everything I could to get her to stay. I did not want to be out there alone all by myself. So when she left, it left me in a kind of a bad situation because I had to do everything myself. The fire, I had to keep it going 24/7. So that means every 30-40 minutes at night, I had to wake up and stoke the fire. Had I had a partner there the whole time, we can take shifts. So the most I ever slept at one time was about a half hour, 30-40 minutes, because I had to keep that fire going all night. So there were good things about it and bad things about her leaving. One of the good things about it was that I just got to do whatever I wanted, and I got to make it all about me and make myself comfortable. I didn't have to worry about anyone else, so that was actually a good thing. When you go on the show, they ask you to bring 4 survival items that you would like to survive with out there. The 4 items I brought a machete, I brought a big 21-inch Bowie knife, and then I brought some cordage, and then just because I thought it would be funny, I brought a hammock because I knew that I could use it for cordage. And the producers, they chose the hammock for me. They knew that I wanted to use it for the cordage, for traps, for building things like that. They knew I wasn't going to use it to sleep in. And so I brought the hammock for cordage, but I thought it was pretty funny because in the intro of the episode, Annie, my partner, had no idea why I brought a hammock. She thought it was hilarious, and she couldn't figure out why I picked that item. But after we used it on certain different things, she was so grateful that I brought that hammock because of all the rope and the cordage that we could use from it. As far as food, it was about day 6, and I was hunting around for some firewood, and the producer said to me, says, "Are you hungry? You haven't eaten anything yet." And at that point, I just kept thinking about food, and I couldn't quit thinking about it. And because there was so much to do, I had just kind of got lost in it. I mean, I was hungry, but I hadn't thought about it a lot. But it was day 6 that I caught a great big huge tarantula. And I ate the meat off of the tarantula. I put it on the fire, ate the meat off of it, and I could feel my saliva glands letting down. I pulled the big fangs off and picked the meat out of my teeth. So that got me really excited. And after that, I kept setting traps, and it was soon after that that I found the groundhog and ate the groundhog, and that was great. There were cacao beans. I had one of those. I did find some bananas, and I found a great big heart of palm. So I actually ate through the whole episode. Unfortunately, they don't have enough time to show a lot of that, though. And also out there were birds everywhere. There was game in the trees, so I couldn't get to them. So I made this bow, and made it out of bamboo. It's a 3-layer bow, and part of the hammock cord to tie it all together. So this bow actually worked out really great until they told me that most of the birds are endangered, and you can't hunt them. So I never really did get to use my bow, but the bow, this would have been a good source of food had I really been out there and needed to find food to actually live. As far as money, they do give us a little bit of money, but not a lot. They ask us not to kind of discuss the amount, but you are out there for 30 days. So they want to make sure that we have a little bit of money to pay the bills back home while we're missing work and things. And as far as I understand, they used to, or were going to pay participants, but they kept getting people that would come out there for the money. And when you're out there surviving, last thing you want is a partner that's out there because of the money. You want someone that's out there because you have to rely on them. Your partner's your greatest survival asset. And if you get somebody that's just out there for the money, and also, from what I understand, a lot of people were tapping out because they didn't realize how tough it was going to be. They just saw, ooh, money, I want to go get some money, and they had no idea, and they tap out. And it costs the network a lot of money to put you out on a mountain and bring the crew in and do all that as well. So my participation in Naked and Afraid, it didn't really change anything financially or socially. It changed me, though, being out there, because I became independent. I learned that I don't need anyone to tell me what to do. I can actually take care of myself and get through situations and struggles. Even with the tapping out, there was no way I was going to tap out. And that's how I live my life now. If something's hard, I don't tap out. If something isn't going the way I want, what do? Just turn and walk away? No, I don't do that. And this taught me that any situation you're in, you can get through it. Tapping out's not an option. As far as Bigfoot, I gave the whole story up on the mountain, and I wish they would have had time to share a little bit more of it. But I grew up in the mountains, and in my neighborhood we have plaster casts of Bigfoot's footprint. We have so many people that saw him. He walked through their yards. They tracked him up the mountains. There are so many people in my neighborhood that I grew up with that have actually seen Bigfoot. And we were camping out as little kids in the yard one night, And we heard him sniffing around the tents and walking around, and a light came on the side of the house to the tent, and I was on the dark side of the tent, and it laid down to hide from the light, and it laid across my arm, it laid across my leg, and I had to pull out of under it, and it collapsed the whole tent in. And now if it was an animal, it would have just stared at the light, or it would have bolted, it would have taken off. If it was a person, I don't think anybody's going to risk laying on a little kid in a tent for fear that he might scream. So that was the short version of what happened to me. But we have so much evidence of Bigfoot in my neighborhood when we grew up, where I grew up, that it's just I didn't believe in it until that whole experience, and ever since then, I have to believe in it. As far as doing Naked and Afraid again, if they asked me to do it, I probably would. However, I'm wanting to apply for some shows where I have clothes, where I have gear, where I have everything that I need, so I can. Because when I was out there in the jungle, there were so many things I wanted to do, but I was so limited because I didn't have shoes, I didn't have clothing, I was so exposed. But I'd like to try a show where I actually have gear and ropes and boots and gloves and different things to where I can actually show some really great things to do out there in survival situations. But would I do it again? If they asked me, yeah, I probably would do it.